Good evening, everybody. It is the Hillbilly Think Tank coming at you live here from Elizabethtown, Kentucky, Tunnel Hills. And I am running for Magistrate, District 3 here in Hardin County. Oh, guys, as you see here in my title, just I am absolutely at a loss with what to say. Uh, I'll just let one of my favorite authors, actually, probably still my favorite author ever, say what needs to be said. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of enlightenment. It was the age of darkness. So I have to say, it feels like we are right back there again. Don't know what more to say, what more we can do. I know to some people, this is the best of times. You know, hauling people out of their vehicles, going door to door now, as we see in Minneapolis, knocking in doors, taking people out, going to public schools, arresting kids. I guess there is never enough. So, what are we to do? I'm running for magistrate here in Hardin County, knowing that this is one of the greatest counties in Kentucky. We're growing. We were thriving. I know we've had a hiccup. Hopefully, it's just a hiccup in this growth and accelerated growth due to the Ford battery plant being shut down after $90 billion were put into it to make the largest battery plant in the US. But at the same time, we've got just today the federal government, the Department of Justice, said to the chair of the Fed, they are subpoenaing him for prosecution. Our president has been demanding that the Fed chair lower interest rates. And the federal chair is supposed to be completely independent of party, completely independent of demands by Congress, Supreme Court, and the president. We put people in there that are competent with economics, looking at our GDP, our gross domestic product, looking at our employment rate, our unemployment rate, and deciding what needs to be done in order to keep inflation from becoming stagflation. All right. Hey, we got Cooper Bailey here, B3Q. Hello. Hi. Good to see you there. So, we just have an executive branch that has decided it is immune from any of our laws, any of our regulations, and anyone that is acting on the command of this seemingly immune-free executive branch can do anything it wants as long as it's in alignment with what the executive king is saying. This is not how it's supposed to be. And how does this affect Hardin County? Well, if inflation keeps going up, we're not going to be able to afford to live in this wonderful county. We're not going to be able to afford to keep on making our roads better. We're not going to be able to afford to improve our ambulance systems. We're not going to be able to afford to improve our parks. There's so many things that we need to do so that this county keeps on flourishing and doesn't fall behind. And inflation is one of those things that if we don't allow someone to do the job that he is qualified to do, we're going to be in trouble. All right, so we got Katie here. Welcome, Katie. And Katie has a question. Katie's saying, I'm Asian and they did nothing wrong. What's the matter, people? All right. Well, we're talking about cops running over to shoot an American mom. So, yeah, that might not be anything wrong in Asia, but, depending on which Asian country you're talking about, China. Yeah, in China, nothing wrong with shooting citizens by the government. And we have talked about that before when we had Beijing rolling citizens over with tanks. We thought there was something wrong with that. All right. So you said you're an Asian American. Okay. Got it. But, here in America, the federal government shooting U.S. citizens on the streets, executing them, there is something wrong with that. We don't allow that in this law-abiding country. So that's the problem. And we are supposed to be a nation of laws. But, Governor Ventura said it better than anyone else that I've heard in a long time. We are in a third world country. Once you see armed military roaming the streets, pretending to do the job of law enforcement, then you are in a third world country. And I expect that when I go down to places like Mexico. I expect it when I go to Honduras, Nicaragua, Colombia, Venezuela. I expect it there. I expect it if I go to someplace like Russia, China. I expect the military and armed paramilitaries to be running loose in the streets and harassing citizens, keeping citizens in check, making citizens do what the federal government wants. But I do not expect that in the land of the free and the home of the brave. But once we allow military troops and militarized government agents to roam the streets and act like third world countries do when they have the military or the militarized paramilitaries running their country, then yeah, you've entered a third world country. I expect this in communist Cuba. I do not expect it on the streets in America. And I do not expect these paramilitaries or the military to be able to summarily execute U.S. citizens. When that happens, when you have extrajudicial punishments and murder by federal agents, you have given up the Constitution. Plain and simple. What more can we say? And again, all this money, these billions and trillions being spent on sending troops into American streets, sending the group that is harassing Minneapolis. They have a larger budget, 3 times larger budget than the United States Marine Corps. There is something wrong with that. So, sorry there, Kate, but if you like the way they do it in Asia or China, then hey, you can have it. But in America, no. They did something wrong. He did something wrong when he shifts his cell phone where he was filming his interaction. He shifts it to his non-dominant hand, gets his dominant hand, draws his pistol, and shoots her 3 times in the head. That's what we see in unlawful countries. That's what we saw in Vietnam during the Vietnamese War, where the police and the military could just summarily walk up and execute someone in the street. That's not something that we should see in America. And if you don't care that they're executing Americans, you should at least care that your taxpayers' dollars are being used this way and wasted. We could use it on our schools here, could use it on our roads here, we could use it on our EMS here. If you're just so lacking empathy that you need to see the dollars and cents cost of this and the waste, that was a waste of money. That did not make Minneapolis any safer at all. It's not making any other city that's being done in any safer at all. All it's doing is harassing and terrorizing U.S. citizens. So we are in the twilight zone. Y'all have a great night. Remember, in Kentucky, united we stand, divided we fall. We love our neighbors as ourselves, and we know that we're our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper, or else we would be divided and we would fall. So God bless your corazón, which means God bless your heart. Have a great night.